What's up guys, Bo here again, and in this entry I want to talk to you guys about something that I've come to realize over the past few days as I've been kind of just going about life. And I mentioned in my Lego Mobo about the kinds of things that I've been doing recently and the changes that I'm having to make to my lifestyle overall. But in one of my previous entries, I talked about how to learn, right? And in that entry, I basically expanded on an idea that essentially learning doesn't stop in school. Learning is a lifelong process, and if anything, our kind of modern day education system kind of kills that in our later life, and so I basically offered some perspectives and some kind of ways to approach learning that are more effective and are more enjoyable and will lead to more success in life, right? So in this entry, I want to tie that in with the idea of the kind of teaching that I give about being sensitive, right? And one thing that I realized recently, right, is that for me, right, to use me as an example, I'm a sensitive person, right? I've always been sensitive. I've always been more of a kind of gut instinct, intuitive kind of person. And I realized that, this world, this society focuses a lot on basically minimalizing risk. A very big reason why the society is the way it is right now, at the present moment, is because generally as a population of people, we've basically we've set up a society which has a focus on avoiding risk, minimalizing risk, right? So it's all about kind of manipulating things and manipulating variables in life to basically yield the safest, the most secure way of getting to whatever you're trying to do, right? So applying this to learning, the way we're taught in school, it's very kind of regimented, it's very kind of do this and it will have this result. Essentially, we're told a lot of the time, what to do, what to expect, what to learn. We're told, it's dictated onto us. And that form of learning, that form of kind of going about life is useful for some people, right? It's useful for the very logically minded. So the people who are kind of more, intellectual, more kind of left brains, like this kind of approach works very well for those people. And those people are generally the kinds of people who do well in the education system and in the lucrative industries of our modern society, things like accounting and anything finance related, or medicine, that law, that kind of thing. But so going from that, for the more sensitive person, right, that approach is actually not very good, right? Because as a sensitive person, right, your kind of main modality of traversing life is not via your mind. A lot of us, because we live in a society, we've been trained to basically be very analytical. We have to be analytical. So even if, I'm a prime example, like I'm not the most analytical person, but I've just learned from my conditioning, from being in school, being in the workplace, interacting with people in society, playing by society's rules and laws and things like that. I've learned to be a lot more analytical than I am naturally. But naturally, as a sensitive person, as a person who's more kind of, who bases more of his kind of judgments on his feelings and his, his intuition, that's not the most effective way to learn for me. And basically what I've discovered is that I'm an experiential learner, right? And to go further, the title of this video is Learning Through Pain, right? And like, what I mean by I don't, like, obviously I'm not, some people might see this title and be like, okay, I need to, I need to beat myself up or something, or I need to purposefully throw myself into dangerous situations. And I'm not, saying that per se. What I mean by that is that there are loads of, as a sensitive person, you can probably relate to this, which is that, a lot of the times we're told what to do. We have people in our lives who tell us what to do, whether it be, a teacher, a boss, manager, or, a family member, a friend. They'll tell you what to do and they'll outline the logical reasons why that is the case. If you do this, this will be the expected outcome, right? And, a lot of us try our best to basically to take that on board and to be like, okay, well, there's a logical reason to do this, right? But deep down, it's very difficult to feel the importance of that piece of information, So when people tell us, or when we read about, when we do research, and it's like, and there are logical reasons to do something, or or someone out gives you, like, for example, any kind of course or seminar or things like that, and people basically give you like an instruction, kind of book, or like a course that's very regimented and it tells you exactly what to do, and it gives you the rules and the outcomes and pitfalls and things like that. That's pretty much how people are trained in the society. But sensitive people, we're primarily experiential learners, right? And what that means is we learn by doing, right? If you're a sensitive person, you learn the best by experiencing. You learn the best by doing. Even if someone tells you that, like, this is the right way to do this thing, or, these are the pitfalls that you need to avoid, right? It's not internalized properly unless until you experience the outcome for yourself, right? And this got me thinking, right? And it made me realize that as a sensitive person, right, the most effective way to learn is to do, right? And to go even further than that, the best way to learn is to fail repeatedly, right? And it's interesting, isn't it? Because, a lot of sensitive people in this society, a lot of people who are kind of more, well, sometimes we're labeled as timid people, essentially, like nice people. But essentially, like, for the average sensitive person, because of the way we're conditioned, we kind of fear, we're the ones who fear failure the most, because it's like we've been, I think it's because of the training that the conditioning that we've received, we've been trained, because we were kind of punished in school a lot, right? And, this goes back to school essentially, like, when you were in school, the more sensitive of us, we were probably kind of unruly, a bit kind of rebellious, a bit kind of, like, kind of marches by the beat of his own or her own drum, that kind of thing. And basically we were punished for that. Like, I know I was punished for that. I was really, when I was like really young, I was really, I was just kind of like, crazy, like, really energetic, I don't know if, ADHD, I don't know if I was that, but, I was kind of, very all over the place, right? Very chaotic in my behavior. And because that's not the ideal kind of behavior for school, like, we're punished for that, get put in detention, we have time out or whatever. Teacher has a word with us and saying, like, you have to behave, you have to obey, right? And because we were trained in that way, because that's an experiential thing, people like training you in that way. Like, a lot of us grow up with a fear of failure because we have that visceral association, whereby we associate, just failing with being reprimanded, with being punished, with being wrong, right? So so a lot of us are fucked up basically by this system, and we go into life and it's our fear of failure that fucks us up, right? But ironically, right, and this is the crux of the realization that I've had, is that as a sensitive person, you need to fail more, right? You need to go out there and do more and fail more, because that is how you learn, right? That is how you learn to traverse life effectively. And that is the means by which you then succeed in life, because you're not like the person who learns via abstraction. You may have to learn to be more abstract and analytical, to get your ideas across to other people who operate in that fashion, more left-brain people. But your success is tied directly with what you experience, right? So whatever happened in your earlier life, with how you were trained, how you were in school, however you kind of see reality in your own way, in your own subjective way, the world is a dangerous place. Like if I fail, like I'm wrong, that kind of thing. Know that is basically what you were conditioned into, and furthermore, we were kind of confused a bit because if using myself as an example again, I'm not the most logical person, so like it's not very easy for me to basically if people then bombard me with logical reasons, to do this and like to trust this system or whatever, or trust this advice, it's like it just confuses me. Like it's very difficult for me to basically put down my subjective knowledge, like what I know on a subjective level, on a feeling level, and then to completely immerse myself in the abstract. So our experiences as sensitive people, our experiences are what will be the cornerstone, the foundation of our success, right? And one perspective that is useful is to basically play with the idea that the world may not be as scary as we initially think. Because of our fear of failure, the way that we've been trained, we feel that the world is a very scary place. And yeah, essentially, if we make mistakes, then we're going to fall down and never get back up, right? But there comes a point where you have to basically, once your self-awareness gets to a certain point, once you get more comfortable, so I talk about in my previous entries about becoming more comfortable and confident in your sensitivity, being confident that your sensitivity is an accurate instrument. And it's a little chaotic, but then that's why it's so accurate, because life itself is chaotic, right? So it's not as safe, it's not as predictable, it's not as accurate in terms of predictions. Like it's not as reproducible as something that is abstract and logical, but it's a very the thing with us is, right, when we learn something, right? Because when we experience that thing and we learn from it, in like in your body, as a viscerally, then you will learn that really deeply. Like it becomes embedded within you, right? So we may not be the most efficient learners, in the sense that it's not as if we can just read something and just internalize it like other people might. We have to kind of go through the motions, and we have to actually do the thing, right? To actually learn to internalize it. So the process is a bit more chaotic. It's a bit more kind of unpredictable. There's quite a lot more uncertainty involved in it. But when we learn what we need to learn, and we're going to learn what we need to learn, because like I said in the teaching video, there's no greater teacher than life, right? If you have the right mindset and you have the right attitude, right, then any experience that you have, just going about life is a learning experience, right? So as long as you trust in your internal guidance system, in your emotions, and your feelings and your intuition, then you will always steer yourself in the right direction, right? It's just constant course correction, just going out and doing stuff and failing. But that is, like I said, the cornerstone of our success, right? So, hope you get what I mean. So essentially, just to summarize, and then I'll give you basically, the practical thing that comes from this is we need to go out and fail more. So we need to go out and try more things, right? And to get out of our heads, because our heads aren't our strongest points. So it kind of, sometimes it's there to kind of confuse us. But we need to get out there more. And this also means that if needed, we need to kind of go against advice. right? Because there's so much advice, people love giving advice to you, and people would love to think that, just because it's advice that's very popular or that's worked for them, like it's going to work for you, right? Well, what I'm saying is, like, you need to basically, if you don't feel it's internalized, sometimes you need to go in the opposite direction of advice, right? So even if someone says, if you do this, you're going to get hurt, or if you do this, you're going to get like, you're going to fail, right? Well, just do it anyway. Just be like, well, let's see if I fail if I do this, right? And what you're doing is you're basically you're training, you're putting the emphasis, you're putting the approach back on your experiential learning. Because like I said, that is how we learn as sensitive people. We learn through experience, right? Not necessarily through advice. Obviously, sometimes we follow advice. If it's really, really obvious, then we should follow advice, even if we haven't done it. But if it's not so clear, then it's okay to go against advice and to see if you actually fail. Because if you fail, then you will learn from it, because, that's how you learn, through the experience, right? So go out there and fail more, right? Don't be afraid of failure. Failure is how we learn, right? And it might be painful, but like I say, this is how we learn. We learn through pain, right? We go out there, and we experience pain, rejection, anxiety, nervousness, inadequacy, all of these feelings, and these feelings will then guide us in the right direction, right? So cool. Hopefully that was helpful. I did that without the aid of notes. So but yeah, essentially, pain is your friend. You can now go and cut yourself. No, I'm joking. Yeah, so place more faith in experiences, and perhaps not so much on advice. So cool. Hope that was helpful, and I will see you in the next entry, which will be right after this. See you soon.